big and I think unfortunate sports news this week. Whatever you think of him, this is just ridiculous. Bill Belichick got left out of the Hall of Fame, from not left out of the Hall of Fame entirely, of course. If you're not completely sure how that works, but he's not going to be first ballot. This was where he could first be eligible. They're voting people into the Hall of Fame, and that they didn't get he didn't get enough votes to get in on the first ballot. Um, I guess let's give the other side. I don't see what is much of the other side, but we still got to give it. Um, I guess some of these no voters were voting. They wanted Robert Crafton, of course, who's the Patriots owner, rather than Bill Belichick. And a couple of these people finally came out and spoke, which I do give them credit for that. A writer for the Kansas City Star said he voted for Robert Kraft instead. Um, a writer for the Indianapolis Colts, I think over 40 years or something. He wrote a piece saying why he chose Robert Kraft and all that. And I'm not trying to disrespect Robert Kraft, but if you think Robert Kraft had more of a play, more of a pitch, a more of a reason for why the Patriots won 6 Super Bowls, I think you're crazy. I think that comes down to Belichick and Brady. Um, so honestly, no, I don't think I mean, Bill Belichick is the greatest coach of all time, and I'm curious, of course, what Jake and Jordan think about that, but I think that's indisputable. I think he's the greatest coach of all time. Just record wise, 8 Super Bowls, including two an assistant. You could say, oh, well, Spygate, all that. But he literally won after Spygate, after Deflategate, he won 3 Super Bowls after all of that, which in its own self is a Hall of Fame career. So that's in my opinion, a BS excuse. Um, so, they're thinking about putting in Robert Kraft. They're using that explanation. And honestly, some things I think you can take on the chin. Some things you can say like, "Hey, this is unfair, but we just got to accept it for a greater good." Like, we got to do this in our lives, right? Like, you may have a decision you have to face, or someone may tell you bad news, and you may have thought you've been treated unfairly, but you're like, "Yeah, well, okay, but I just got to take it." I don't know. I think Belichick should turn down the Hall of Fame at this point, and maybe that's a controversial opinion. But I think he should turn it down. I think that's ridiculous. I think he's the greatest coach of all time. So, again, there's a little bit of an explanation. Oh, we'll put Robert Kraft in instead, but I don't see it. And again, I think everyone's gonna have the same opinion on this highway robbery. But would you go as far to say he should turn it down? I think he should. I think this is a joke. But uh, I guess we'll go Jordan first. What do you think on Belichick getting left out?
I think it was absolute BS. Like Evan said, family friendly show, so I won't use the term that BS actually is. To me, what a Hall of Famer is can you tell the story of NFL history without this individual? And there is absolutely no way that you can tell NFL history without Bill Belichick. It like Evan said, I mean, he's won 8 Super Bowls, 6 as head coach of the Patriots, 2 more as an assistant, I believe, with the Giants.
Yeah, correct.
I believe so. So no, you cannot tell the story about this. I know some voters, said, "Oh, I took it for granted that Bill Belichick was going to be a lock to get in, so I voted for other people," which I believe was wrong in itself. If you're going to vote for the man, vote for the man. But
Mhm.
something else I find interesting is if he was left out because of the whole Spygate, Deflategate stuff as a first ballot Hall of Famer, guess who else is not a first ballot Hall of Famer? Jake, Evan, any guesses?
Who
Bonds.
who's that?
Barry Bonds?
That's a different sport, I
A
think, right?
completely different sport.
Yeah.
Completely different sport.
Completely different
No, but
sport, but
I
you
was
get the
thinking
same.
of that connection too. But Jordan, what is it?
Tom Brady would not be a first ballot Hall of Famer then if that were the case.
That is true if they're going to use that precedent. Absolutely, yeah.
And that is a very dangerous precedent because, like I said, you cannot tell a story of NFL history without, Tom Brady getting there. So I believe this was an absolute travesty. Bill Belichick was not a first ballot Hall of Famer. To me, he's the greatest NFL head coach of all time. I don't think we'll ever see that. Andy Reid's gotten close, but I feel like he's reaching the end of his career, which is a different discussion for a different day. But it's just unfortunate. Evan mentioned the fact that should he just turn down the Hall of Fame just totally at this point? I don't think so. I mean, obviously he's going to get in probably next year, I would guess. But he definitely should be immortalized forever for what he's done for the NFL. Jake?
Yeah, I mean, obviously being out of the first ballot Hall of Fame, one absolute travesty for Bill Belichick, because like Jordan said, you cannot tell the NFL history without Bill Belichick. Obviously eight Super Bowls in his career, well, 10, two as an assistant, and eight in New England. Obviously, great career. Tom Brady got in first ballot Hall of Famer. And if you're gonna leave Bill Belichick out because of all the scandals that he was involved in, you gotta leave Tom Brady out too because those two were obviously on the same team, and it's crazy to me. But and Evan, Evan and Jordan, I think all three of us have the same point on that. Bill Belichick is the greatest football head coach of all time. And I think it's an absolute travesty that Bill Belichick got left out. The first ballot Hall of Famer. He's still obviously gonna get into the Hall of Fame, but should he turn it down as a whole? I don't think so because obviously still being in the Hall of Fame, is a big honor. And I think Bill Belichick deserves that for what he's done for the football world and everything.
Yeah, and I can only respond to the explanation the owners gave and what or the excuse me, the voters gave. And what they're saying is they preferred Robert Kraft because he's the owner and he's more integral and whatever in the process. And how can you say that with a straight face when in the 90s the Patriots sucked? They were irrelevant. Yeah, they had Drew Bledsoe for a little bit. But who came along and started winning Super Bowls? Bill Belichick, Tom Brady. And obviously we've had this debate on this show, who is the bigger piece. And I think we've sided with Tom Brady. And that, we started this podcast too, like towards the end of Belichick's career, and he became more relevant and stuff like that. And I would still defend that I think Brady was a little bit more part of their success. But Belichick is right there, and Robert Kraft, again, he's done great things, but he's just farted around in a press box. So just absolutely ridiculous. I don't think there's much more to say, and I do stand by that he should turn down the Hall of Fame because this is this is just ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like I said, he's going to get in the Hall of Fame probably next year. But he's never going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't think that well, obviously voters cannot take back what they did, but there was actually this question of should the Hall of Fame try to make it right at this point? And I think that it would be hard to do it, um, but they wouldn't justify what they did in the first place. I'm curious to know what you guys think about that.
Oh yeah, really quick. I'm reasonable. Like I will like if they admitted they made a, and I don't know the Hall of Fame voting rules or whatever, but if they made a admit they made a mistake and next week Bill Belichick's the first ballot Hall of Famer, forget all about it. But that to me, those are the options. Either he's a first ballot Hall of Famer or he's not. So like if they reverse course and correct it, then I'll give them all the credit. I'm not unreasonable, but they got to do that, They can't make it up any other way, I don't think. But yeah, what do you think, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. I mean, I think if they come out and say that they make a mistake, I think we'll give them all the credit in the world. I think they get a lot of credit for get knowing that they did something wrong and correcting it right away.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't. I mean, obviously they'll never, live down their mistake in the first place. But if you're going to make it right, then I guess we'll give them. I don't think I'm going to give them all the credit in the world because you still messed up in the first place. But we'll give them some credit for correcting them and admitting their fault.